We continue the off-cycle elections analysis as we go to our Abuja studio where Safiya Bichi of the Situation Room is standing by for her perspective on how elections went down at the weekend. Safiya, thank you for joining us here on Newsday.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, when you look at, let's talk about the voter, turnout. When you look at the disclosure of Anex in terms of the number of voters that were registered and those that collected their PVCs, and then you look at the turnout of those that showed up, the voters on Saturday, are you impressed?
In terms of the turnout remains low. As you can see that in Kogi State, the turnout is still below 40%, as against apart from the Imo State turnout. Even though we've seen 90% PVC collections in the three states, we think that the turnout is very low based on the figures we're seeing. Even though we question the turnout in certain places, for instance, Kogi Central, we find the turnout very questionable.
All right, you find it questionable. Let's turn attention to Bayelsa, one still hanging, and it's not as straightforward as it seems. And some are saying we should not get used to this kind of rancor pre, during, and post-elections. What do you have to say to all that is happening in Bayelsa as we speak right now?
Yes, so one would have thought that a Bayelsa State, being a state with only 8 local governments, would have concluded their elections by now, despite the fact that they have some difficult terrains, the riverine areas. Again, the occurrences or the situation in Bayelsa State is not new to us, especially with some of the things we saw on election days and some of the things that led to the delay in the elections. We understand that there's a growing apathy in the country and there's a need to build citizens, and there's also a voter fatigue. We're just coming out from general elections, and we also are aware that it's becoming a trend that most off-cycle elections experience some level of decrease in voter turnout. But I think that we need to do more. Perhaps we need to investigate some of the why some of the patterns we're seeing and why we're having this level of turnout in the state. For Bayelsa State, the election is supposed to be competitive, looking at what happened in 2019, where the winner of the election was not sworn in due to some of the court verdict we saw. But again, we're yet to see the final results from Bayelsa State. We're still waiting for the final results from Bayelsa State. But the turnout, again, in Bayelsa State is not too different from the turnout in Kogi State. It's not as impressive as it is expected.
Well said, Safiya. Now, when we look at all the factors that were highlighted preceding the elections in terms of what would potentially contribute to voter apathy or low voter turnout, do you think that there might be one or two crucial factors that were probably overlooked and might have contributed to the low turnout that we saw on Saturday?
I think the biggest factor, because two factors that would have significantly impacted on the level of turnout in the election is security, one, then secondly, availability of election materials. But we've seen that in both states, most especially the states we're on ground, that the three state security agents of personnel, demonstrated some level of professionalism and to an extent maintain some law and order in the states. Then the second one is logistic deployment. There's a significant improvement in Anex logistic deployment. But the third one, which is usually neglected, is looking at the people on the ballot. We do not have independent candidates in the country. So the people on the ballot, how popular are they when it comes to citizens? Are they people citizens will want to go out beyond all odds to vote? And you know the narrative of who has been decided even before the ballot. And that's not what I'm saying we should dwell on, but the popularity of the candidates. Are they the same people? Are they people of the same school of thought or the same kind? So these are some of the reasons why you see that the election seems to be less competitive, especially in the states that just had elections on Saturday.
All right, Safiya, at Yega Africa, what do you people make of this electronic transmission of results? The reason why I asked this is reports have it that as of yesterday evening, Anex had uploaded 9,903 election results. In Bayelsa, for example, all the results have not been uploaded, same as Kogi and Imo State.
So what will explain this to me is that elections did not hold everywhere. And if you had seen Yaga Africa's report, the report states that in Imo State, for instance, 12% of our sample polling units, election did not hold, even though some of these polling units, results from some of these polling units were seen to be uploaded on the IREV. And we've also seen significant number of those polling units without result on the IREV. It shows that elections did not hold. I remember in 2019 Bayelsa governorship election, Yaga's report and data showed that I think about 24% of polling units where elections were not conducted and elections were concluded. So it still tells you that there are lots of polling units where elections did not hold, which explain why results were not uploaded. But in terms of improvement or performance of INEC when it comes to uploading election results, we've seen a significant improvement. Results were uploaded as stated on the INEC electoral guidelines. There was no delay in upload of results, and results were trickling in as expected. But when it comes to the issue of having results from all the polling units, as at 1 hour ago when I went on IREF, there are results from some polling units that are yet to be uploaded, even though elections are concluded in both Kogi and Bayelsa State. And we're not saying that we're expecting the election will be conducted in all polling units, but at least let it be in significant amount of polling units.
Well said, Safiya. We have barely 2 minutes with you. Earlier on, we spoke with the head of election security, Bukola Idowu. And of course, he pointed out that 2 issues that contributed to potentially voter apathy or low voter turnout is security and availability of election materials. Now, according to him, reactionary communication from INEC contributes to the frustrations which the security operatives face. I'd like you to rate INEC's communication. Do you share Mr. Idowu's sentiments that the reactionary communication might also be contributing to some of the issues that were experienced?
I think it would be difficult for me to rate that because, first of all, civil society organizations are not part of the election security coordination committee, and we might not know. I'm not in a position to know the level and the frequency, how timely communication flows from INEC to the security agencies. What I can only say is that, to an extent, INEC in this election were very responsive and were quick to respond to the issues, especially in Kogi State, where as it relates to pre-filled ballot result sheets in Okehe, Origorimagongo, and other local governments that you saw. INEC was able to come out immediately and also declare those and postpone election those locations. So for us, INEC was responsive and communicated in due time in those locations.
Many thanks to you, Safiya Bichi of Yega Africa, for your time here on Newsday.